In the last video, we set up the sizing die and we sized one case. I don't believe I've talked about tumbling brass yet. Not sure if I get to it in this video, but we will address that at some point if you guys want me to. Pretty straightforward process. You just throw. Before I start today's video, I want to just say a quick shout out to you guys that have watched so far. We've got something like 20 views so far on the channel. For a brand new channel with 2 videos, that's not bad. We have 135 minutes of watch time, which, woo, big deal. But you know, that's over 2 hours of time people have spent watching my videos, and I really appreciate it, guys. Like I said, brand new channel, just getting started. Today's video, we're going to load up some 9mm ammo and test it to shoot it. That's basically what we're going to do. This is the first time I have loaded on this new Hornady press, the first time I've loaded any ammunition in a couple of years. So let's go. I'm going to get some cases ready to polish. I've got my unsorted brass here. This is a comparison. There's what it looks like before it's polished, and there's what it looks like after. You can see quite the difference. This also has all kinds of gunk on the inside and on the outside of it. So we're going to get it good and polished up. I'm just going to turn the tumbler on here. And this actually doesn't throw any out to the side. I was kind of impressed by that. The vibratory motion just kind of circulates everything really nicely. I do already have some of this Hornady one-shot metal polish in there. It came with the kit. Never used it before, but it seems to work. It seems to cut down on the time that I have to tumble them. This says twice fired on the bag, but this is just an old recycled bag I use. That's my dad's handwriting there from when he used to reload. I'm going to, I'll turn that off now. And I will cap this and set it down on the floor, the concrete floor. It'll make less noise. Just got done sizing and depriming probably, I'm going to guess 200 cases. And I've gone through, and I kind of remember this from the last time I reloaded 9mm, but the Federal brass, and let me see here, yeah, that's one. It's staked a little bit there. There you can see that ring around the edge. I'm wondering if I'm going to need to swage the primer pockets on these. So I do have the swaging set up, and if I need to, we'll go into that. But for now, I'm going to sort out. There's some random brass like this. R and RP, it says. Most of what I have is either Winchester or Federal. So I'm going to sort out the Winchester, the Federal, and then all the random other stuff. So much to my surprise, these Federal cases with the seemingly, let's see if it'll focus here. Oh, there's not enough light in here for it to focus well. Anyway, these Federal cases with the seemingly staked primer pockets prime just fine with the hand primer. No bump, no resistance, just slide right in. And sits perfectly in there. So we're just going to go ahead and load up 50 or 100 of these. We've now got some cases primed up. We've got, we're using this Federal brass for right now, which again gave me no trouble on seating the primers, kind of like I thought it would. I've got all these primed up to about 75 cases in all, but we're going to start out with a just a load up of 10 cases, since this will be the first time we've actually loaded anything on this press. So what we're going to do first is see if we can get this powder measure set up. You can see I don't have it anchored down to the bench. This is just the stand, and then I've got the Hornady lock and load powder measure, which I have to get set up with the pistol metering assembly and get it all set up. I really like that this came with the kit. I've heard that it's one of the best volumetric powder measures you can get. I'll also be double checking, of course, against my balance scale. And Hornady included in this lock and load kit right here, this electronic scale. So we're going to compare the two, see if we can get a feel for the whole setup, the whole lock and load classic kit while we're doing this, and hopefully see if this electronic scale they included is any good or not. See, I went with a mix of RCBS and Hornady stuff. The reason was completely price. So I got the M500 mechanical scale and the RCBS powder stand. Now, the reason for the powder stand being the RCBS one is twofold. First of all, it was on sale, cheap at Midway, like maybe 18 bucks, while the Hornady one was something like 25. They were close. But the thing I liked about the RCBS stand is it gets it further up off the bench. It's probably, I'm going to guess I've got 10 inches of clearance there. So I think I'm going to like that a lot, especially when I go to loading rifle cases. I could just stick this up in here and load it right away. So I'm going to go ahead and get this powder stand set up. I've got to decide kind of where I want it on the bench so that when I'm sitting here, I can use the press and I can also reach the powder measure to dose out my powder. So I'm going to get this set up and I'll get back to you. Alright, y'all, I keep being impressed by everything I've gotten from Hornady. I was expecting to have to get in here and unscrew this to get this metering assembly out. Well, look at this. Push button, pull the metering assembly out, and the rotor just slides out. I wasn't going to show that all to you because I figured it'd be a process and it would be rather boring. Nope. Works perfectly smoothly. I need to get some of the Hornady one-shot dry lube. But for now, that's going to work just fine. And then you just screw the handle onto the side. There's nothing to it. I'm running into just a slight bit of a snag here. All of these parts, there we go. All of these parts are treated with a rust preventative from the factory, and that all has to be removed before we can use it. So what I did was took some Hoppy's number 9 and used that to clean. That's really the only cleaning solvent that I have right now. But the trouble is, it leaves more of a greasy finish on there than there was before. So I'm probably going to have to wait to use this powder measure until I get some actual stuff that's meant for this. I'll be going into town later today. I'll try to pick some up. But until then, I'll probably just load a couple individually with the scale instead of using a volumetric measure. But I can go ahead and get the powder measure set up. I've got everything, all the dyes cleaned off here. I decided to just use carb cleaner spray that I had. I kind of forgot that I had that. All I was able to find at Walmart when I went the other day was the Hoppy's Gun Medic cleaner and lube, and I think that's going to leave too much residue on. So I cleaned it out with carb cleaner. I'm probably going to have to put a coat of oil on it when I get done so that they don't rust all to heck. But we'll do that for now. Anyway, next step is going to be putting a little taper on. So I'm going to pop this primer thing out and put in the taper die. It looks like this one's for both 9mm and 380. I should put just a little bit of taper on the case mouth. So, let me get my bushing in here. Get that locked in place. That's the one thing I'm finding I don't like about this bushing set. When you're trying to adjust the die, a lot of times you end up twisting out the bushing, and I don't care for that. I wish there was some sort of locking mechanism where you could lock the bushing in place. Maybe that's something they'll come up with. Okay, so I'm reading the instructions here about adjusting the expander die. And what it's saying is to put the case in the shell holder, raise it to its full height, and thread it in until the expander touches the case mouth. Right there. Okay, so we're going to be using one of these Barry's bullets here to test out whether this is able to be seated or not. Okay, and it's not. I don't know why I'm shaking. So we're going to screw down in small increments until it's flared at just enough to seat a bullet. Okay, and we're not getting any flare on it yet. I'm seeing just the slightest of flare. Oh, that's getting closer. I don't want too much flare on these. I didn't feel like it did anything. Okay, that is giving me just the slightest amount of flare. But I think it's still not sitting in there. I still think it's going to cut some off of the bullet. That felt like it actually did something. Oh, we're getting so close. Oh. That's almost it. I'm going to go just a tad more. Screw the lock ring down. That is just barely there, but I think that's enough. I'm going to back off just a hair. And there it goes. See, I untwisted this and it just pulled my bushing out. And there's no way to grab onto to unlock this. You gotta pull the bushing out, and I don't care for that. Alright, well, let's see where we were. I'm going to set this case aside because it's flared out now and I really don't want to run it through a sizing die. Okay, I'm going to back this out a hair. Okay, the bushing's locked in place. And I think I backed it out just a little too far. Man. With this coming undone, this is kind of a crapshoot. But that right there is where I want it. Just barely enough to get it in that case mouth. I'm hoping... Oh, my hands are just barely in the shot, aren't they? Let's come up here. Okay, I'm going to do one more. A third case here. Yep, perfect. That's right where we want it. Just enough so that it seats in there and it'll get straightened. I am 9mm head spaces off the mouth of the case right here. So I don't want to crimp it too much, but I'm going to crimp it just enough to get rid of that flare we just put on it. I don't know if the seating die is going to do that for us or not. So I'm going to lock this down, get it set in place, probably try one more case just to be sure. I need my... Maybe this is the right one. Oh, it is. Alright. Just going to lock down my lock ring. And do one more case here. Perfect. I guess I should try it with a second bullet. Just to be sure. That's right where I want it. I should be able to set that on there and seat it without it shaving it off. We can go back and adjust later if we need to. On to powder. Quick note about this RCBS scale while I'm zeroing it here and getting it ready. I don't like the prongs right here. And for one reason. Let me see if I can get this stopped from bouncing around now and I'll show you. In the past I've used powder scales that just had a little line over here somewhere, and the line on the beam lined up with the line on here, and it was a perfect line instead of a point that it comes down to. Here's the other thing, and I guess it's still part of the same reason. Because of the distance between the beam and the points, there's a good focus. See right there? Okay, this scale is perfectly zeroed right now, but it looks like it's way low if you're looking from up here. You have to get perfectly in line with the scale, which means you gotta crane your neck way down to be able to see that it's zeroed. If you're looking from up here, yeah, you can't tell. See, it looks like it's measuring a little high. Anyway, that's just a quick little annoyance. So as we get on to talking about powder, I'm going to open this. I'm going to see how it compares to the balance beam scale, because I would really like it to work. I hadn't ever intended to do an unboxing, but I suppose that's exactly what this is. Alright, we're just going to set this aside. It doesn't have... I was hoping it would come with calibration weights, but it doesn't. Not sure if that means it isn't able to use calibration or what. I don't know. just use these batteries it comes with for now. If we have trouble with power, I'll switch to better batteries. Good grief, these things are light. Probably not going to trust these for long. They weigh a lot less than a regular battery would. Oh, push button there. Oh, got to hold the button to turn it on. Okay, set it down on the bench and see if it zeroes out. Okay, that's 0. These bullets should be 124 grains. Okay, and I'm getting a reading of 124.2 grains on this scale. So I'm going to move over to balance beam scale. That's at 120 grains, so I'm going to move it to the 124 mark. Okay. Okay, that's at 124.2. Okay, well that is not... It looks like it's going to level out where it should. Yeah, that's perfect. I'm going to go through and do some more of these with powder charges. But first, I'm going to put this scale away, and we're just going to... I'm going to turn that one off for now. I don't know, maybe this thing will surprise me. For now, we're just going to use the balance beam scale. I'm going to get it zeroed out, and we'll use it for powder measuring to begin with. Alright, I've got powder up in here. What I've done is I've tapped it around, knocked it around so that the powder can flow down around the baffle, and it looks like it's pretty well settled in now. So I'm just going to get this adjusted and dial it into where I'm throwing a consistent charge of powder. And we're going to go for... Let me see here. Oh, this thing did come with a check weight. I didn't even notice. This other scale did come with a check weight. I just saw that when I went to move it. We'll mess with that later. Looks like it also came with a little aluminum pan. But we're going to be going for... Let's see, we're doing 124 grain bullets, and yeah, we're going to go off of FMJ. We're going to go off of the FMJ data for this. But what we're using is the CFE Pistol, so I'm just going to start out at a mid-range. We're going to go for the 4.6 grains. It looks like we can go up to a high of 5.3. We're just going to do the 4.6 grains of the CFE Pistol right now, and see if that cycles. If it cycles, I don't really see any reason to vary from that. I do not have a chronograph right now, so it's going to be hard to see whether they're matching up with the data. But I'm just going to go ahead and get this dialed in, and I'm going to use my balance beam scale. I'm getting some pretty decent results with this Hornady scale. It seems to be right on, if maybe just a tenth off, maybe just a tenth high of the balance beam scale. So what I'm going to do, I've got 2 cases loaded up here. The powder measure's throwing really good, really consistent charges, measuring the same every single time. So I'm just going to go through and I'm going to load up the rest of these 10 cases, checking them on with powder. I'm going to load them with powder. And I'm going to check the levels on case 5 and case 10. So I've got 2 cases here. Let's do 3. 4, 5, check the weight on case 5. And I've got 4.6 grains on the Hornady scale. I breathed, didn't change to 4.7. This thing's sensitive, which is good. So now I'm going to put it on the balance beam scale, and we're going to see where it levels out. It's actually reading it a little low. So I'm going to pour the powder back into the case. The trouble with like 2 or 3 individual tiny grains of powder sticking in there. Okay, so I'm going to make sure this is zeroed. I'm going to double zero it. Dump the powder back in here. I might have lost a grain. It's saying 4.7. Let me make sure I haven't lost 0 on the balance beam. Okay, there's 0. I'm wiggling all around. I wish there was a way to dampen these a little bit so they wouldn't wiggle around as much. Alright, I'm showing dead on them a 0. So I'm going to set it back to 4.6. And weigh this charge again. Still settling down. Okay, yeah, it came to right on. So we're just going to go ahead and fill the rest of them. And I think I'm running out of space on my memory card, so I'm just going to fill these and we'll come back later. I've got powder measured out into all 10 cases. So now, and I've double checked to make sure there is powder in every case, because I have done that before where I loaded cases and there was no powder in there. So what I'm going to do, you guys are going along with this process just like I am. I'm going to read the manual here and set up the seating die. And it says to, and I am going to put a little bit of a crimp on it, but what it says to do is to go through the steps for seating without a crimp first, then without locking down the ring, move on to the seating with a crimp steps. So I'm going to lock this bushing in place. Okay, that's in there. Okay, so I'm going to insert a sized case into the shell holder and raise the press ram. Okay, so we're going to have the... Yeah, so we're just going to raise that up. It says back out the seating adjustment. Thread it in until resistance is felt. Oh, I suppose I need to... No? Okay, so I'm just going to thread it in until resistance is felt. It says to insert a bullet later. I thought I was getting resistance, but I'm not. There's resistance. Okay. Not going to tighten this down. It says to back it out to prevent the case from being crimped. We're not going to do that because we are going to crimp it. We're not going to tighten this. Okay. Looks like I can go to the next page, seating with the crimp. Once you've reached the preferred seating depth for the bullet. Okay, I'm going to go through this, set it up, and then tell you what I did afterwards, because I'm taking way too much time. I figured it out. We're going to basically set the seating depth of the bullet before we set the crimp depth, which is a little... It seems like we're going to have to go back and forth a couple times, but we'll see. Okay, now I'm going to screw this. I'm going to screw this screw in until I meet resistance. Right there. Okay, I'm going to turn that down for now. Okay. We're going to go a couple more turns. There's a little bit of a seat. Alright. It's still a little bit long. Still a little bit long, but I'm going to go ahead and get out the calipers. And we're going to start measuring for correct overall length, which, looking at my Hornady book, okay, the maximum case overall length is 1.169. I'm going to go a few thousandths below that. Let's go to 1.165 and see how that looks. Okay, we're at 1.172, so we actually don't have too far to go. We've only got, what, 7 thousandths? So I'm going to turn this in a little bit. That bullet is seated on there nice and straight. Oh, I went too far. That's 1.159. So I'm going to set that aside to pull later. Okay, let me back out on that and sort of lock it in place. Okay, let's try again. I didn't think I was going to go too far so soon. Alright, that is in there nice and straight. What are we going to? 1.1. Yeah, 1.169 is max. Okay, look, we're at max right now. We're just over max. 1.170. So I'm going to turn this in ever so slightly. I just gave it the tiniest little bump. Doesn't seem like it's flared out too much, so we might not. We're at 1.164. Gosh. I almost wish I had the micrometer adjustment. And there's another bullet. I'm just guiding it up into here. I kind of like this floating color design. Maybe I'll show that to you up close later. Okay, we're at 1.166. Somewhere in there. 1.165, 1.166. Okay, that's where we want to be. Okay, 1.164, that's close enough for our purposes. Okay, there's 2 loaded rounds. I was shaking it around to see if I can hear powder. But with that little I can't. Okay, I'm going to measure one more, but first I have a feeling I'm going to have to adjust it more. Okay. So we're going to thread that in just a little bit, and I'm going to back out the cedar because that's screwed in with it. And we're going to try for a crimp. That was just the slightest amount of crimp, but I think that's going to be what we want. Let's make sure overall length is still on point. Good. Still the same. I felt like just the slightest amount, but since the 9mm headspace is off the case, that's probably all we want. Off the mouth of the case. 1.163, 164. We're going to go 1.164. Let me grab another bullet here. There is powder in there. Okay, now let's double check our seating depth again. My guess is it's going to be just a hair long. Yeah, 1.167, which actually isn't bad. But I'm going to go down just a hair more. Our cartridges are looking good. 1.165. And that's exactly what I'm looking for. Okay, it's all in range. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and load up the rest of these then. Perfect. I'm going to have to look up, so I just went a few thousandths under max overall length. Probably what I'm going to do is look up ideal. Just for comparison, I've got a Federal, around a Federal factory FMJ here. Oh, 1.155. So that's significantly shorter. 1.155, that's 10 thousandths shorter than we're going here. Yeah, or 9 thousandths. So I'm going to look up and see what overall length should be. Here's another Federal case. Let's see if it's anywhere. See if it's consistent. Yeah, 1.15, 1.152. That's actually shorter still. Alright, so I'm going to look up ideal case overall length and get back to you. What I didn't notice before was that there's an actual recommended seating depth for the bullet, and we're not getting there yet. The recommended depth for this load, and we're just going to go with recommended because I'm not going to get into anything different, is 1.150. So I'm going to go ahead and seat these a little deeper. We're at 1.164. I'm going to go ahead and seat them a little deeper. Okay, we've now got the first 10 rounds loaded up on the new press setup. Everything went smoothly, about as smoothly as I could imagine it. And now we've got these 10 rounds to go test. They are seated to an overall length of 1.150. Yeah, so we're going to test them out. It's too dark right now to test them, so it'll probably be the next day that you see these run through. We're going to run them through my Taurus PT99. And they are loaded with 4.6 grains of Hodgdon CFE pistol powder. So we're going to shoot those tomorrow, and hopefully they run right. If not, we'll make adjustments. One final thing for tonight. I've got one round loaded up here. One thing I always used to do, and I don't do as much anymore, but I might start just for the heck of it, is using one of these overall length gauges. Now, this has several different features on it. If you can see right there, there's a groove, and the bottom of the groove represents the minimum length for head spacing, because the 9mm head space is off of the mouth of the case. The minimum for head spacing, and the top part is the max. So drop the case in there, it should come below this but above this, or flush with the minimum, and this case does. Also, you've got overall length here, so that the bullet does not protrude from this side, and you can see that it does not. It's below. I've got these measuring at 1.154 right now, which is about perfect, and it slides easily enough in and out, and this is machined to be the same as a 9mm chamber. So, chamber's easy enough, eject's easy enough. Got my 10 rounds loaded up here. This is that ammo that we loaded. It'll be last night. It'll be about 5 seconds ago for you guys. We're going to go ahead and shoot this. I'm going to be catching the brass on this blue tarp over here and looking at it after pretty much every shot, looking for signs of pressure, looking for feeding right in the gun, all that. The recoil on that was really light. Let's see, I got one in the chamber, so it did cycle. And no real pressure signs. Brass looks good. It's a really light recoil on these. But it is cycling them just fine. And the brass still looks good. Okay, I'm going to try 2 in pretty quick succession to make sure that it can keep up. Only figured I'd hit on the first one, but yeah, it cycled just fine. Seems to be hitting right where I want it too. And lock the slide back. Exactly what we're looking for. I did notice on that last shot, normally with this particular gun, when it locks the slide back, it the ejected shell tends to hit me right in the forehead. Well, on this one, it hit me right in the center of the chest, so it isn't throwing these shells out quite as far. We might have to step up the load just a little bit to ensure consistent cycling, but for now, I think I'm just going to probably load another, I don't know, 25 or 50 rounds and just see how they work. So far, it's working perfectly. I recovered 8 out of those 10 cases, and what I'm finding is that each one of them is discolored, like this. Let me flip it this way. There, you can see it really well. Just on the one side, and I don't know what that's about. Yeah. And all of them seem to be like that. But other than that, the primers look good, the bases of the cases look good, there's no denting on them or anything like that. So we're gonna have to see. Gonna have to see if this load continues to work.
I lost a video clip
somewhere in here. But I did go ahead and move up from that 4.6 grains to a 5.0 grain load of the CFE pistol powder. We've got this 5.0 grain load of the CFE pistol in here now, and we're going to see how that works the gun. That felt like more like normal recoil. We are still getting that smoking on the case. Oh yeah, you can actually see it pretty well on there. We're still getting that smoking on the case. Let me try a few more. The recoil feels a lot more normal though. Let's try that. Alright, that was 10 rounds. Let's try 10 more. I picked up this magazine at a gun show here recently. It's got a really nice baseplate on it, a lot nicer than most of the Taurus PT99 magazines have. Well, what I realized later though, it's only a 10 round magazine. It must be California compliant or something silly like that, but I'll certainly use it because when I'm testing, I pretty much go for 10 rounds anyway. The recoil certainly feels decent. It's hitting kind of where I want it to. I don't have it on paper yet, I'm just shooting the steel. But the recoil's good. That the last shell that it ejected when it hit the slide back didn't hit me in the center of the chest this time, so that's promising, I guess. The shells are looking a bit smoky, but I don't see any signs of pressure. The primers look good. Don't see any other signs of pressure on the cases though. And now that smokiness I can pretty much wipe just off with a finger. So it should come off almost completely with the tumbler. Alright, I am losing light now. I don't have enough to do any more shooting on camera this evening. So I'm going to shut the camera down and we'll go load up some more